Tell me what you want after this club. You know I get nasty. Don't Uber out of my house, you call a taxi. I'm picky with my women, I'm just sliding. Call me to your pivot, I'm sliding. I'm picky with my women, I'm deciding. Call me to your pivot, I'm sliding. First things first, let me get that introduction. We on the long road to self-destruction. You so in love, you wanna tell me nothing. Let me get this clear, cause I had no idea. Get it up like first, let me get that first, let me get that.
Can you play that again?
Beat it up like.
First, let me get that. I'm here with my weed. I'm first things first, let me get that introduction. We on the long road to self-destruction. You so in love, you wanna tell me nothing. Let me get this clear, cause I had no idea. First, let me get that. I'm here with my weed. I'm just
And welcome to AATB Draft Talk. Joined as always by my co-host Tom Barnett, and we have special guest again, Chris Mallee from 4th and Jawn. He was at the Senior Bowl, so we're going to get to talking about a lot of the Senior Bowl, the game practices. Got some fun little 3-round mock drafts, the Giants and the Eagles we're going to do, so that should be real fun. And then we got some trade discussions to talk about, how the trade go down, plus some other talk and some speculation and some rumors. So there's a lot to get into. Are we ready, guys? How you guys doing? How's everybody? How are we doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Ready to talk about the Senior Bowl a little bit.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I mean, it's nice actually just to talk off the timeline with the guys and just talk about the draft and then just try to pick your brains about everything going down right now. I mean, it's absolute chaos on the timeline. I mean, it's Super Bowl Sunday in 3 hours, and everyone's talking about Carson Wentz. So we'll get into it, guys.
We'll definitely get into it, and we're going to start with the Senior Bowl. Tommy and I last week we talked about our players we liked, right? Who improved, who really looked good. I want to get your thoughts. You were able to. You were there. I think it was you were there virtually, correct?
Yep.
Like you were able to see all the film and everything like that. So we want to get your insight and your input about what you saw, because you got to see a lot of great film.
Yeah, I mean, they did a phenomenal job this year because they had to wait on the world knowing that the COVID situation was going on. And then they heard about 2 weeks before the Senior Bowl happened that the combine was getting canceled and they were just going to do like private pod workouts kind of. So they knew that the Senior Bowl was the last big opportunity for a lot of these guys to showcase in person with all these coaches, let alone all the NFL coaches with Matt Rule and Brian Flores being there. And that's a big reason why guys like Devonta Smith went down there. Devonta Smith, he injured his finger in the national championship game, but he's like, you know what? I might be able to get the third pick attached to my name. So he went down there, talked to Brian Flores. From all reports, he was really impressive in the way he carried himself down there, even though he didn't play. I mean, he's the first wide receiver Heisman winner in like 30 years. So his resume speaks for itself. But overall, they did a great job down there. All successful COVID tests. Everything came up clean. They gave everyone 4 to 5 interviews per night, but it was hard for them to siphon through everyone's names. But they did a really good job. I mean, they had all 22 up by about 7 p.m. every night. They had highlights, they had stats, very little. Jim Nagy, who's first class, he did a tremendous job. All the staff down there. I mean, it just shows you how if you collaborate and you guys work really hard together to keep everyone safe and you have the best interest of the players and the staff down there in mind, great things happen. I mean, the game was really successful. Guys are jumping up like 2-3 rounds. Guys that weren't even going to get drafted are going to get drafted now, and that's the beauty of the Senior Bowl. Yeah, it was a great week.
And the one question I have for you, and I also can throw it to you, Tommy, as well. You can answer as well. The whole Devontae Smith and his size, and I know a lot of people want to compare him to, like a Marvin Harrison type, because Marvin Harrison was, lightweight. But if Devontae Smith is 6', 6'1", and say he's 160, 65, 170, I'm not sure. Marvin Harrison coming out was 181. So it is a pretty big difference. He's so talented. You could see it on the field. You could see what he does. Does that concern you at all? Especially if you're picking a player, if he falls to number 6 and say the Eagles select him, would it be any bit of a concern?
You want to start, Tom?
I mean, I think there's a little bit of a concern with his weight, just because when you're picking in the top 10 and there hasn't really been a player at that weight before, you kind of have to have a little bit of concern there, especially with the way he was used at Bama. They used him a lot on a lot of screen passes where they kind of schemed out where he's going to be physically going against guys one-on-one, using his strength on the release on the line. So I think that's some of the concern with him a little bit. I don't think it's going to affect his stock badly, though, where we see him drop to like the end of the first or anything, though.
Yeah, I was just on another show the other day, and people really wanted to pick my brain about Ja'Marr Chase versus Smith, especially since Chase didn't even play this year. And that was my argument, that Ja'Marr Chase would have been the first wide receiver drafted last year. He still might be the first wide receiver drafted this year, and he didn't play a snap. And that's with the competition is Devonta Smith, and this is a guy that just won the Heisman as a wide receiver and a national championship. So I think that just should speak volumes to how impressive Ja'Marr Chase is, and the fact that no one's seen him play live football in over a year, and people still want to take him first, and that he's still in the argument. I mean, the thing with Devonta Smith, going back to the original question, with the size, it definitely is a concern. There's a reason why he didn't weigh in or do anything at Senior Bowl, because even though he broke his finger, he can still weigh in and get measured. He was small. Like, it didn't help that he was talking to Najee Harris at the time, and Najee Harris is like one of the largest human beings to ever play running back, and he's been abnormally large his entire life. But he looks like an alien. Like, it's hard to describe how freakish looking Devonta Smith is, and that's why I'm so intrigued by him. His hands are like below his knee by like a lot when he's just standing. Wow. But like, he has like if you look at the guy, like, he looks like a cartoon character, and it's just hilarious that this is the guy that was the most prolific wide receiver in the country, because he's really shy and quiet, but he's so violent in the way he plays, and that's what you love about him. I mean, he just reminds me of just like, he's like, I mean, the thing with the size is, like, you see a guy like Tyler Lockett, he's been banged up in the NFL, but he's really good. And the thing with Devonta Smith is he usually avoids contact. Of course, we say that, and he has a broken finger right now, and that was in an in-cut, and he was going across the middle a little bit into the outside. I'm not too concerned about the injury for him because of the size. The thing is, like, fit. I think he'll be great wherever he goes, kind of like Jerry Jeudy. Like, what he's good at, he's great at. Like, he's a route runner. He gets open. He catches the ball. He's a freak. But if he has like a really inaccurate quarterback and the dude's like leaving it high across the middle of the field, that's where problems could come. When it comes to Ja'Marr Chase compared to Smith, Ja'Marr Chase is the same height, and he's about 40 pounds heavier, and he's probably going to run faster than him. So I don't really think it's Smith, like, nothing against Smith. I think Ja'Marr Chase might just jump him, because when people see how impressive Ja'Marr Chase is physically compared to Devonta Smith, they're like, okay, because Chase spent the whole offseason just getting stronger. I mean, Chase looks like gigantic now, and he's going to run in the 4.45s. Smith might run like a 4.5, but like we said, 40s aren't everything. It's all about play speed.
And Dan brings this comment up, which I looked up Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson at the combine was only like 5'9" and change,
Yep.
around 5. He wasn't that, and yeah, he was like 169, 170. But when you have 4 inches shorter, and yet you're the same weight, it's a little bit different. Plus, Deshaun Jackson was a second round pick. He wasn't the number 6 overall pick in the draft or a top 10 pick. So you do have that, and going into the practices and into the game. Let me get. I'll go to Tommy after I go to you. I'll go to you, Chris, first. Give me one player that surprised you, and then I'll have Tommy give a player like in the game that maybe surprised him or wowed him a little bit.
The player that surprised me the most, surprised me the whole week, and it was Trey McKenty from Georgia, the tight end. I mean, I knew about him, but in Georgia, like, they don't use their tight ends too crazy. Yeah. And but then I saw this guy, and he was lined up against safeties, linebackers, and he was dominating. Like Jabril Cox from LSU, I absolutely want the Eagles to draft him. He's phenomenal. He was dominating in pass coverage all week. And then McKitty was dominating. So they said, all right, you guys are going against each other. And with Jabril on his back, he literally had a one-handed catch, and everyone there was just like, okay, we have to see what happens. And McKitty, he dominated the entire week. I mean, he was phenomenal. I mean, the guys that we thought were going to do good did good. And then there's a lot of another name was Quinn Myers, the lineman. He ended up, I mean, he was hilarious. He was like the Jason Kelsey down there. He had his stomach out the entire time. He was playing with an injury the whole time, and he was just throwing people around. I mean, it was a great week.
I would say in the game, the player who surprised me the most, he's really the only guy who actually ran the ball with any effectiveness. Michael Carter out of North Carolina. I know a lot of guys who were already high on him. I wasn't quite as high on him up until this game, where he was pretty dominant. 8 carries, 60 yards for a touchdown. But what impresses me most with him is just his elusiveness. I really, when you compare him to Javonte Williams, watching them on film, I think that's what kind of held me back from really loving Michael Carter. But kind of seeing him off the field outside of that UNC offense, it kind of clicked for me. I'm sold on Carter now.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder as an Eagles fan, is he the Nyheim Hines that Indianapolis had? And, is he going to be a guy that Nick Sirianni wants to be the Nyheim Hines? Or is Miles the Nyheim Hines and he wants to get a Jonathan Taylor and he'll try to look at Williams? I mean, there's a lot of options, but in general, there's a lot of running backs this year, but absolutely Carter was dominant and people loved him. Pass protection was a little iffy at times, but he came around towards the end of the week.
Yeah, and the one player I liked in the game, Des Fitzpatrick from Louisville.
Yep.
He really looked looked good. I know he had one his body control during the game, and he even said he was comfortable getting 2 feet in bounds, and even with the NCAA rules and everything. But he showed out a little bit. I love this wide receiver class. Last year's wide receiver class was great. I know I talked to you last year about the class, and we tweeted back and forth, messages back and forth about that class. I think that this class could be just as good as that class with the amount of players and the type of prospects that are in there. And Fitzpatrick is a player that, like you said, rose their draft stock. I feel like he rose his draft stock a little bit from the type of game that he had and what he can do. But it's just, with this opt-out and with some players returning and everything, it's real good for some of these prospects that would be probably later round picks. They're going to be bumped up a little bit. So I think Fitzpatrick had a really great game. He had a great catch from a Sam Ellinger throw from Texas, the quarterback from Texas. He had a great, in the second half, he had a great catch on a pass from him. But I really like Des Fitzpatrick in the game. Anybody in the game that impressed you, Chris?
I mean, all around, there's guys like Michael Carter, like we're talking about. Amari Rodgers had a great week. I think went 4 for 23 and a touchdown. A guy I've been really high on all year is Demetric Felton from UCLA. Yeah. I know that Eagles fans hate the Pac-12 and UCLA, but the kid's really good. I mean, you see Antonio Gibson's doing really well in the NFL, and everyone's kind of just looking for the Swiss Army knife. And you saw Curtis Samuel really step up. I mean, he's a really good running back, but I think he's going to be dominant in the slot. And don't let him or Kadarius Toney end up on Kansas City Chiefs because Andy Reid's going to have a field
my
day
God.
with any. I know that they're like the Chiefs. They're going to be like the 32nd pick, and they're going to be praying that Kadarius Toney is within striking distance because if you put him with Hill and Kelsey, it's going to be crazy. She Smith from South Carolina had a really nice week. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it was crazy because like the guys at the Senior Bowl minus like 3 or 4 of them, none of them. No, like one of them, Kadarius Toney. None of them are gonna be a first or second round pick. These are all guys that are all gonna go in like the third to like undrafted, and they're all probably gonna get drafted because of Senior Bowl. And then there's about 15 receivers that weren't at the Senior Bowl that are going to get drafted. So, Johnny, like when you're saying like this draft class, like the wide receivers compared to last year, it's just as good or maybe better. I absolutely agree with the sentiment. I mean, Smith would have been drafted in front of Ruggs this year, who's the first wide receiver, and Chase would have probably won above all of them last year. And I think
And
that just
Waddle's too.
yeah, exactly.
I
This
think I
class
think
is insane.
I think Waddle and Smith were better than Ruggs,
Hmm.
and I think Judy's a lot. I think Judy would have went ahead of those two guys, but if the way you kind of you pinpoint it and you talk about you look at the talent and the deep of the Eskridge from Western Michigan, and it's just there's the problem is there isn't like you don't have a group of like guys like Bateman and these bigger receivers. You have a lot of littler, shiftier guys, but you kind of have guys that do everything almost. You
Yep.
have and that's the beauty of it. I know Tom has a couple receivers that he absolutely loves. I know he's talked about on multiple shows.
Yeah.
Tom? What's your take on this wide receiver class? I know we've talked about it, but
I think it's a really deep class. Another receiver who kind of caught my eye this week, Cade Johnson out of South Dakota State.
Yep.
He was extremely productive last year. Didn't really get a chance to play this year, but he's very productive in the slot. Last year, top 20 in the nation yards, top 10 in the nation yards after the catch, and 76.6 catch percent, which was 8th in the nation. He's a little bit of a smaller guy, but he kind of gets lost with the amount of deep slot receivers there are this year.
no, I've really liked watching him and his shiftiness. And yeah, he's not the biggest guy, but he fits that slot role. He gives you a lot there. But another guy that I liked from Tennessee, Josh Palmer.
Yep.
And I just felt you have to also look who these receivers had throwing to him. Like last year with Jalen Reagor, TCU's quarterback situation was awful. So when you have that and you don't have the consistent quarterback play and you don't have that, guy that can get you the ball, Tennessee didn't have, great quarterback play. And Palmer was, playing behind some other good, good receivers that this year was his chance. And of course, with COVID and everything, it kind of throws everything, into a little bit of a loop there. But I feel like he's a guy that, showed a little bit of what he can do. And like you said, Amari Rogers, his dad is T. Martin, who was just, was hired by the Ravens. So, Amari Rogers to Baltimore, that seems like a nice fit. But no, I just threw that out there just to be funny today when I saw it. But no, this class has a lot of, and it's funny because the Eagles drafted 3 receivers last year, but it's still a need. So you still need to, be able to pick the talent. But as I've talked on multiple shows, it's about developing that talent and developing who you pick and who you get. Any other guys? How about the quarterback position? Any of those quarterbacks? I know they're not the top guy. I know Mac Jones didn't play in the game, but I heard he did well in the practices, looked real well in the practices. What's your take on Mac Jones?
Mac Jones, I mean, he checked off all the boxes. I was watching it live when I saw him tweak his ankle, and like as a competitor, he went back to the huddle, and you could tell he wanted to play. But they saw it. I mean, he kind of took off in the middle, and then like went to the outside, then back in the middle, and he everyone knew not to touch him, but. Other than that, he had a great week. I mean, Mac Jones, it's really hard to slate these quarterbacks. I mean, it's crazy. Like, Mac Jones was a Heisman finalist. You had Kyle Trask that was a Heisman finalist. Both guys aren't even being really talked in, like, the top 20 picks right now, maybe not even the first round. But then now you hear that Mac Jones might go in the first. Kyle Trask is probably going to be like a second or third round pick. It's just really, it's a weird draft because for 3 years we've been talking about Trevor Lawrence being the first pick. People don't know where Trey Lance is going to go. Zach Wilson has the hype right now, and then you have Fields, and like some people are trying to get Fields hype up. And Fields wasn't at the Senior Bowl, but obviously we saw him absolutely go nuts towards the end of the season, especially dealing with that rib injury too. But no, I think Kellen Mond was easily the most impressive guy at the Senior Bowl, at the game and throughout the week. I mean, he had the size, the athleticism, and the arm. He had a terrific day. I think he threw for, I think it was like a buck 50 and 2 touchdowns. He just looked really smooth. He's a dual threat guy. I mean, I could see him being a really nice backup for someone. I'd rather have him than Clayton Thorson a couple years ago. If you're looking for a project guy, yeah. So yeah, for quarterbacks, Mac Jones looked great all week, and Kellen Mond looked really good in the game.
Yeah, Mond's the guy I've been hyping as like that mid-round developmental quarterback for a little bit now. I love the arm strength on him. He just shows like there are kind of two versions of Kellen Mond, in my opinion. Like, there's the Kellen Mond where he is absolutely elite, like, and takes over a drives the team down the field. And then there's the Kellen Mond that's completely inconsistent, struggles with his accuracy and ball placement a little bit. But I think if he can tap into that good Kellen Mond side, you have a really good quarterback.
Yeah, and the player I like, and I know I've talked about him. I like a lot of what tools Jamie Newman has. I know he didn't play last year. He opted out after transferring to Georgia. A little rusty, but I feel he's got the makeup. He's 6'2", 235, can run a little bit, has a strong arm. I feel like he could be a good, developmental player for a team in the middle later rounds. I made a statement that, I'll eat crow if I'm wrong, but I feel like 3 to 5 years down the road, I feel like Jamie Newman could be one of the top quarterbacks coming out of this draft. It's just my feeling on it. I had that type of feeling when Dak Prescott was coming out. I remember telling one of my, who's actually one of the co-hosts, Jeff Warner. I told him I really liked him in like the later round, like the 4th, 5th round. I liked, his makeup. Never thought he was going to be anything of what he is, but just that Jamie Newman gives me that type of a feel. I know I mentioned, a little bit of a Jacoby Brissett type of quarterback with him, but what's your thoughts on Jamie Newman since you got to see a lot of the practice film and a lot of the all-22 stuff?
I like Newman a lot. Like you're saying, how you kind of had like your Dak Prescott a couple years ago. I loved Dak in college. I mean, I thought that he was kind of going to be people were going to hope that he was going to become like a Russell Wilson with a really solid arm and just like a quality guy. I mean, Dak Prescott's a class act. You heard all the great stories about him and his family and like all the health issues that they dealt with. And it really came back to, it was funny when we were getting ready to get Jalen Hurts. Oh no, Jalen Hurts was at the Senior Bowl last year and had a chance to like listen to all the interviews. I'm like, oh, like, can't wait for this guy to be in the NFL. Like, he'll probably go in like the 3rd round. Like, good luck to him. Like, he's a great guy. Of course, he ends up on the Eagles. But Newman though, I mean, that's what you want to look for when you're in like the mid rounds. Like, you're looking for a Gardner Minshew, you're looking for a Newman that you can work in the mid rounds and see what you have. Yep. I mean, he was really impressive. He took command in the huddle. Guys really liked him. He had really nice touch and anticipation throughout the week. I mean, the Senior Bowl has been awesome for these guys. I mean, Jalen Hurts last year, Justin Herbert. I feel like Justin Herbert really, really needed the Senior Bowl last year because people were really stuck on like the Oregon, like doesn't translate. People were worried about Mariota. People saw he didn't really. People didn't see him go under center. And then I think it was the Orange Bowl, right, last year when he absolutely torched Wisconsin. People were like, okay, like, I guess we have to wait for the combine. And he goes, no, I'm going to the Senior Bowl. And he just was lights out. Interviews were amazing. People realized that he was like a really good kid he grew up so close to the stadium. I mean, he hasn't really been outside of there. It's kind of funny that ended up in LA, not too far from home. But I mean, the Senior Bowl is huge. I mean, I think it helped Newman out a lot. And with the Eagles likely dealing Wentz, like I wouldn't mind getting a guy like that because we have 2 5th-round picks, maybe one of those.
Yeah, and for Newman, my comp as like the floor was Jacoby Brissett, and then I said at the top like his ceiling, I said McNabb type. I didn't say exactly. I hate giving comps because each player is their own. They're their
Yep.
own guy. They're making their own name. But I want to go to the defensive side of the ball. We talked to offense. We talked a lot on the offensive side. I want to kind of touch on the defensive side of the ball. Tommy, who in the game did you see that, maybe open your eyes a little bit for the defensive side of the ball?
All week long, Richie Grant has been my guy. I mean, he
He's
looked
your
great.
guy.
He looked great in practice. I think he picked off Newman twice during practice. I'm a big fan of him. He's rising up out of all the safeties in this class. I think he has a chance to be top 3 safety in this draft now. Could go day 2.
Who do you got, Chris?
There's a couple of quick names. I mean, I talked about Jabril Cox from LSU earlier. I am dying to get this kid. I mean, he's awesome. Every program he's been at, because he was at North Dakota State before, the fans love him. The production's there. He's played in huge games his entire career. And the guy I told you about, DJ Daniel, he ended up winning. He got voted unanimously by the receivers and cornerbacks as the best defensive back on his team. Who else was great? Ifeatu Melifonwu from Syracuse. His brother's in the NFL. He was great. They had 7 targets against him in the Senior Bowl. It was kind of weird. It was almost like people were trying to pick on him. 3 for 7 against him and 2 pass breakups. He kind of fits the Gannon scheme when he's looking for like a longer, rangier cornerback.
Yep.
Yep. I liked him a lot. I mean, there was a lot of impressive guys. Penn State Shaka Tony, he was pretty solid. He had good bend. I mean, it was just impressive. I mean, it's just sad because like we have 10 draft picks. I wish we had like 100 because we need them. And all those guys that are gonna be like 3rd, 4th round picks. We don't have 4th round pick because of Howie, but like those are the picks that you really want because these guys from Senior Bowl that really impressed. They're gonna be making 10-year careers. Like these guys look really good. Richie Grant, UCF, phenomenal week, and he's great. I mean, they're saying he might be a 2nd round pick now. I think he was kind of like the Jeremy Chin of this year. People really saw him just completely jump off the screen and just in general at the field last week.
Yeah, two names that I had in the game that I really liked watching in practices were Tulane's Cam Sample. It's just, I know he's not the biggest guy, so he's going to need a certain fit and situation, but just the motor, just the constant motor, and in the game, he was defensive player of the game honors. He had game high 7 tackles and assisted on a sack. He just seems like he's always around the ball. He just always finds where the ball is. It's just I like those type of players. And you could probably get him later in the draft as well.
Yep.
And then Minnesota's cornerback, Benjamin St. I think is it Justy?
It's Juice.
I forget
like St. Juice. I think it's St. Juice.
Juice.
Yeah.
So I liked him. He had really 2 impressive plays he made, but fits that mold, that Gannon mold, that super long, lanky type of cornerback. So those are 2 guys that I liked in the game. There's a number of players during the week. Like you said, it was just amazing to see some of the talent that came out, and were able to see, especially go up one-on-one against each other. And what you said with DJ Daniel, I watched that interview that you did with him, which everyone can check it out. It is on YouTube. It's just the confidence that you see from him, and then out on the field, and you see what he can do, and it's just somebody you can get in middle to later rounds. Now, I think he kind of rose his stock up pretty good because his name was coming up a lot, but he's definitely something, and he's somebody like you said, like that fits the Gannon mold. So, and that's another thing. I don't know how you feel, Chris, but with this new coaching staff, and hopefully they get in Howie's ear in terms of players they like and that fit their scheme and their system. That we can see some of these players, because you look at this and you're just like, man, I'd love this guy and this guy and this guy and that guy. But it was great to see all these players and what they can do. Any last words? Talking about the Senior Bowl or anything about anything upcoming after the Senior Bowl or anything like that. I'll start off with you, Tommy.
Actually, I wanted to get Chris's thoughts on Deontay Brown, the guard out of Alabama. I thought he kind of looked like he struggled a little bit from what I've seen in the video. I was kind of wondering to get your opinion on him, see if he hurt his stock at all by going to the Senior Bowl.
So the first day, you could tell that he was a little stiff. I don't know if he was still sore from this national championship or anything. He looked a little stiff. I mean, it was kind of the entire Alabama line look a little worn down throughout the week.
Leatherwood,
I mean,
too.
Yeah, Leatherwood. Yeah, like Najee Harris barely practiced because he had an ankle injury. But as the week went on, like you saw why these guys are as dominant as they are, because you could tell that it was kind of hurting their egos, that some of these guys that were a little more motivated and they wanted to show them up because they were going against the national champions. Like you had some of the smaller school guys from Tulsa, ECU, they were way more well rested. Maybe they didn't even play this year, and they're going against Leatherwood and Brown. But dude, when Brown kicked it up, people were oh, Jesus, he was landing on people and putting his knee on them, do not ever disrespect me again, or think or think that you could compete with me. On top of that, I mean, Trey Smith, wow, he was unbelievable. And the only thing people were worried about him is medicals, but he got checked out and he should be fine. And obviously the NFL is going to do their due diligence with that. But no, Brown, really impressive. I mean, you maybe worry about a little bit of mobility, but I don't think so. He's a mauler. He's a guy that if you're a Jonathan Taylor or something like that, you would gladly have that guy blocking in front of me. I mean, you saw the holes that he created for Najee.
He's a big dude.
Yeah, he's gigantic.
He's huge. And I know somebody said when you're watching Alex Leatherwood, he reminds me of Eric Flowers, which
bad memories.
Oh yeah, well for Tom it's pretty bad memories being a Giants fan. I forgot about that. That's right. Some bad memories. Sorry about that. I bring up a little pain from the past. Chris and I have enough pain from our recent draft picks, so it's okay. It's all go around. Anybody else that kind of disappointed you before we head on to the next fun segment?
Disappointments. I'm trying to think who I try not to bash on anyone. I'm just trying to think who just I feel like Sage Surratt didn't really jump off the page too much. I mean, I like him, but I wasn't trying to overdraft him at all. He kind of reminds me of JJ Arcega-Whiteside in general. He's kind of just a jump ball guy. I think he might be a little bit better. I mean, he kind of reminds me of I'm trying to think, Gabriel Davis, but a little slower. But Surratt's good. But speaking of Surratt, Chaz Surratt, his brother.
I was going to bring him up.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. I mean, he's a guy that might be there in the third, but he'll probably sneak to the back of the second. He's really good. And the fact that he played quarterback and now he's playing linebacker, I mean, the IQ's there. And you can tell in pass coverage, the quarterback's dude, this guy literally knows what I'm doing. He's calling plays out at the line, and that's invaluable. That's why Zaven Collins, I love that dude on Tulsa. He's moved into the first round debate. I think he was an ex-quarterback, and you can just tell when he plays, there's the processing is so much better for guys who played on both sides of the ball. That's what I look for in players, guys who played multiple sports, multiple positions. Because you can just tell they get it. They understand what's going on both sides of the ball. They're processing. And the reason why I love when people are multi-sport athletes, it's definitely I feel like it cuts down on injuries because like you've just moved your body like all year, like your entire life, and like you're adjusted to different like unique movements that you might have never experienced if you didn't play that sport. Like let's say you wrestled in high school and then like you get bent back in the NFL, but your body's never went that way with that much force, and then you just completely snap, and that's like a big thing.
No, I could see that. Tom, any disappointments from you that you thought was going to be, a little bit more productive, or show you something, or even a weigh-in or something like that kind of threw you a little bit?
I was a little bit disappointed that Devonta Smith didn't weigh in. I was really hoping to see if he would have weighed in and came in at like 180 or something and surprised everyone. But I think he's waiting for that pro day where he can kind of has the opportunity to gain a little bit of weight, and Alabama might juke those numbers a little bit for him.
Yeah, and so with that, we're gonna stop for a quick commercial, play a quick commercial break, and then we'll get back and we'll get into our team 3-round mock drafts. All right, and we are back. We are going to go team. It's going to be the Eagles and the Giants. So we're going to go person by person here. We're going to pop this into the stream. Who's first, Tommy? Who are we going to have Chris go first, and then you, then me?
Yeah.
All righty, let me pop this in. Are you ready to go then, Tom?
Yeah, I'm good.
All righty. So we have number 1 already on here. So go ahead, Chris. Go break down what you got for your ideal Eagles 3-round mock.
So right now the Eagles have the 6th overall pick. It's a very rare position to be in. Simultaneously, it's another rare position to have 2 quarterbacks that started last year, and it is, I would say it's 100% guaranteed Carson Wentz is gone this coming week. So the Eagles will be getting another first-round pick, I'd assume this year. So Jamar Chase, I'm just ignoring the fact that all that stuff's going on in the background. Jamar Chase, in my opinion, is one of probably 4 players that you're actually looking at overall at 6. Looking at Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, I would say Penei Sewell from Oregon if he falls there, which I don't think he's going to, or possibly a quarterback. I don't know how the Eagles really view Jalen Hurts. And on top of it, I don't know. I feel like Howie's smart enough to know the more quarterbacks he has, the more lifelines he has here, because he can say, "Oh wait, like I drafted just like Justin Fields. Like let me show you that this guy is going to be the guy." So, but in regards to Jamar Chase, I can't speak more highly of him than like the guy is just great. Jamar Chase, every 4.4 catches last year in the national championship season, he scored a touchdown. And it's not like it was one of those situations where he had like 50 catches and it's like a really cherry pick stat. He had 85 catches. Like the guy is unbelievable, and he plays like he's 6'6". He's 6'1", 215. He's going to be absolutely built by the time that the season starts. I think he's clear-cut wide receiver 1. There's a reason why people are talking about him not even being at the 6th pick compared to last year when the Ruggs was the first wide receiver taken, and Ruggs' production was really bad this year. I mean, it's one of those things where there's a reason why I was really high on Justin Jefferson last year, because I saw him play all like his entire career at LSU. I'm a really big LSU fan, but Jamar Chase beat him out and pushed him into the slot for a reason. Jamar Chase is unbelievable. I think he's going to find a lot of success in the NFL. And the reason why I was really high on DJ Daniel was because DJ Daniel was like the only corner that gave Jamar Chase problems in the entire season.
So with the
And then,
second round pick, go ahead, Tom, hit that one.
so Richie Grant from UCF, Fourth and Jawn, we actually had an interview with him, and we really got to break down his film, find out more information about him. And this is before the Senior Bowl. And at the Senior Bowl, he looked incredible. He looked like a first round safety, in my opinion. He was probably this year's Jeremy Chin, who just lost out to our rival Washington football team, Chase Young, for Defensive Player of the Year. Jeremy Chin, I think, should have won it. I mean, Jeremy Chin was an absolute Swiss Army knife. And I feel like we really, like, it's one of those things where it's really tough to project what we need in the second round, because I think the top corners are going to be gone. And, like, there's a guy like Tyson Campbell and Stokes from Georgia that you would look at, but Richie Grant, I mean, he's a do-it-all. And looking at next year, McLeod's coming off a major injury. Jalen Mills isn't on the roster. Kayvon Wallace, you don't really know what he is. And then that's it. Like, we really don't have anything at safety. And Grant almost can play linebacker a little bit too, but he's just really dynamic. And he had a huge week at Senior Bowl and checked off every box. And like I was saying, I think we're going to have another first-round pick, so maybe you go Jamar Chase, J.C. Horn in the first round, and those three back-to-back-to-back, that's blue-chip players all around.
Yeah, and Chris has a little bit of a, seems like, crystal ball there, or that last comment he made. But with the third round pick, the last pick in this 3-round mock draft, another one that Chris is very high on.
Yeah, Jabril Cox, linebacker from LSU. He was outstanding all week at the Senior Bowl. He looked like a guy that is coming from an LSU program that just keeps producing NFL star after NFL star. I mean, that's what the Eagles really want Howie to do. They want him to stop overthinking draft picks. If you go Jamar Chase and Jabril Cox in 2 of your 3 first picks, no one's going to fault you if they don't pan out. It's like, that's the thing with Howie Roseman, is that instead of taking the obvious pick, he always goes like for something crazy. I mean, I don't want this guy. I want Danny Watkins, who was in the movie Ladder 49. It's like, it's one of those things where, like, Jabril Cox is outstanding. You need a linebacker. You can't keep on neglecting it. Last year, Jim Schwartz was freaking out at Howie Roseman to draft Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma. Decided not to. I guess Schwartz probably was hoping he was going to get Justin Jefferson, but then they kind of go the complete different way and they get Jalen Reagor. I mean, I wouldn't even call it an overcorrection since we missed out on the first LSU guy if we get 2 of them, because these are just 2 of, like, the best in their position.
Exactly. And with a haul like that, it'd be welcoming to be able to start building this team with younger players that have star potential, that have, if not star, has, top potential of being a very good contributor. Travis joined us a little bit late. After we do this 3-round mock, we will be talking about some rumors and different things there. So definitely stay tuned. We will be touching on that. Tom, you'll be next. Jason is loving the dog in the background. He's our draft talk mascot. But Tom, the stage is yours now. Your New York Giants don't have a quarterback controversy. They're sitting pretty with Daniel Jones. So where do you see them building their roster in their 3-round mock?
So with my mock draft, I didn't really go with my ideal pick for each one. I kind of just ran the simulator and was like, all right, I'll see where the board falls for me. It kind of didn't really fall the way I was hoping. So I kind of went with a surprise pick at number 1. So in my scenario, Kwity Paye was gone, and also top 3 wide receivers were all gone. So it kind of left me to choose between Kyle Pitts, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, J.C. Horn, and Micah Parsons. I ended up going with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I feel like Parsons is going to slide. I don't think the Giants are going to want to touch him, especially with what we just went through with DeAndre Baker. If I go with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, it adds another great weapon on the defense. Graham loves that versatility in his players, and I think he'd be a great fit for us. Even though a lot of people are probably going to hate taking linebacker at 11, especially over Parsons. I feel like he's a difference maker for us. And then in the second round, I went and got myself a weapon for Daniel Jones, wide receiver Rondale Moore out of Purdue. He missed most of last season with an injury, but his freshman tape at Purdue is some of the best wide receiver tape I ever watched. He has so much speed, versatility, using him on jet sweeps. He's a threat to score every time he touches the ball. A lot of people are high on Kadarius Toney for the same reason with his moves after the catch, but Rondale Moore is right there with him, even if it looks like he may have lost a little bit of a step this year. But it's a great way to get a little bit of value here, get Daniel Jones's weapon that he needs. And then in the third round, this pick is more the way the board fell. Like, I don't think that he should be here in the third round at all. And just because he was here, I had to take him, even though he's not the biggest need. Hang on one second. Javonte Williams, running back out of North Carolina. I mean, you're thinking here like, okay, you have Saquon Barkley. What do you need another running back for? But if Javonte's here in the third round, you have to take him with Saquon coming off an injury. I also feel like you're trying to take pressure off of Daniel Jones and adding a great 1-2 punch of Barkley and Williams, especially if Barkley's not 100%, does great things for the offense. You could use Barkley even as a receiver a bit more. And also, I don't want them to really use Barkley 20, 25 carries every game. You're going to have to ease him back into this offense coming off an injury. If you've got a guy like Javonte who's been splitting carries with Michael Carter, he's a great back to complement him with.
That's a great haul for the Giants. And another thing, I know you mentioned with Kadarius Toney ending up with the Chiefs, even a player like Rondale Moore ending up with the Chiefs, you know, a guy that can do so many things on an offense like that. That's another player I wanted to bring up, but, you know, Tom made it perfect here with in his mock. But it's a great haul for the Giants. It fits some needs. You know, they get some players that you know, fill out that roster because they have a young roster. They're coming up. They're able to get their defense showed out last year. Their offense struggled a little bit, but they get two pieces on offense here and they add to that defense. It's a really good haul there.
Yeah, I was hoping to add an edge rusher maybe with that third round pick. I had Ronnie Perkins there, Quincy Roche, but Javonte was really just too good to pass up. I couldn't resist.
So, getting into the last mock, you know, Chris said a few things that kind of goes right into how my mock is going to go. With the first pick, I have them same as Chris. Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is there. It's a no-brainer. His productivity, you know, 6'1", over 200 pounds. The numbers he put up last year, and on an offense with Justin Jefferson, with Thaddeus Moss, with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you know, Marshall was there. They had so many weapons, and yet he put up the type of numbers that he put up for LSU in that national championship winning team. You pair him with Jalen Reagor, with Miles Sanders on that offense, Dallas Goedert. To me, it's a no-brainer to go and build around your quarterback who, like Chris said, it's going to be right now, the way I have it, it's going to be Jalen Hurts is going to be your quarterback one because Carson Wentz is going to be traded, which leads me to my second pick, which is another first-round pick that they acquire when they trade Carson. So I'm saying they get number 20, which is the Chicago Bears pick, and I am go J.C. Horn, cornerback. You know, big, physical, willing tackler. The son of former NFL Pro Bowl wide receiver Joe Horn. He fits that what Jonathan Gannon likes to do for the defense. And I think you get a player like this. I don't know how long Darius Slay is going to be here. He does turn, you know, over 30 years old. Going to be 30 years old. Don't know how much, you know, life he has left on the Eagles or how much time he has left. But J.C. Horn he's there. I think you have to take him. Yeah, Jason says Joe Horn's cell phone. Yeah, We all know that celebration.
No, Horn's great, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I would consider even moving back and just getting Horn if we didn't use the 6th pick. Like, I think Horn's that good, and he looks, dude. He's been going crazy this offseason. We've been talking to him in the back end, and dude, he's legit. Like he's crazy. Like he kind of reminds me of like Ramsey with like the mindset, and dude, he got really big in the offseason.
And that's just something I'm very, I was tempted by, seeing that, he may wind up going a lot higher. He may wind up jumping, Patrick Surtain and Caleb Farley, all depending. But he's there. I take him. With my second round pick, I went kind of the same angle that Chris did with safety, but I went Elijah Molden from Washington, 5'10", 192. He can play. He's very versatile. Play in the slot, can play safety, can do a number of things. And, if you wind up, going away from Jalen Mills, he's the type of player that could fit into that, that spot that, that Jalen Mills had. But he could do so many things that you need in this defense. Like you said, Rodney McLeod's coming off of a major injury. What do you have in Kayvon Wallace? We already know what Marcus Epps is. It's, no telling there. What do they do with Avonte Maddox? Do they move him to slot? Do they put him at safety? There's a lot of questions, but if Molden is there, I think you need to build. We've seen year after year with the secondary, when you have to go out and sign guys like Trevor Williams and, Kevon Seymour, and you have Michael Jacquet out there, you're throwing these guys out there year after year after year. It's not good. So getting these young guys and being able to build a secondary with some youth and develop some talent, young talent, I think it's 100% in need. The last pick in the third round, number 70, I have them going set interior offensive lineman center Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma. Huge, 6'5", 320, two-time first team All Big 12. It's a huge interior offensive lineman, and I feel the Jason Kelsey possibly retire. I don't know what he's always thinking about it every single year. He did say, when his time is up, he's going to let everybody know when he decides to hang it up. But I wanted them last year to go after a center. They didn't. So if they get a guy like Creed Humphrey, which I feel he could play, some of the interior positions, but, he's been playing center for Oklahoma. And there's some familiarity there with Jalen Hurts. He played center when Hurts was there at Oklahoma. But I feel like if he's there at number 70, to me, that's a pretty good value at number 70. But, speaking of the draft and, talking about, trades, and there was a trade, Goff and Stafford got swapped, plus some draft compensation. The Rams really don't care about first round picks, which is evident. They haven't had a first round pick since they drafted Jared Goff. I think the Goff scenario and the Carson Wentz scenario are two totally different things. A lot of people want to try to compare them. I think it's not comparable. But Tom, I'll start with you, Tom. What were your thoughts on that Goff Stafford trade?
I mean, I was honestly really surprised. I didn't think that I know they were saying beforehand that Goff was going to be in a competition next year with Wofford, but I just really didn't see them moving on from him, especially in that kind of trade for Stafford. It's pretty rare you see two names like that move for each other. But I think it might be best for both organizations, to be honest. If he's not wanted by the Rams, you got to move on.
But for the Rams, you better win the Super Bowl within the next couple years, or else it could be, it could hurt you for years to come because, you don't have draft picks. So for me, that's where I look at it. I know Stafford with Detroit and a super tough player. I know Jason Sullivan, who's one of our writers, and messaged him back and forth. He's a Detroit Lions fan, so he knows all about Stafford. He knows all about that, and he's rooting for Stafford. He's one of the toughest players. You see videos when he got absolutely crushed. I think it was versus the Browns a few years ago, and he was hurting, but he wanted to stay in the game, and he wanted to throw in a touchdown pass at the end of the game and everything. But to me, it's the Rams. You better win. You have all these high priced talent here. You better hit on this and you better win. For the Lions, it's just let's just regroup, rebuild. Goff's here for a couple years, but let's take these first round picks and let's try and build something because they don't have many draft picks next year. So for them, there's two totally different sides, and I don't think there's a clear cut winner or loser right now. But that's my take on it. Chris, how do you feel about that deal?
Yeah, so the big thing is we have to remember the Rams were mediocre for so long. I mean, I listen to Chris Long's pod a lot, and I love it because you get so much insight from he'll have Lane Johnson, other guys on, and Chris Long was like, dude, I lost for so long, and it was funny because 2 days before the trade happened with Stafford, he had Calvin Johnson on, and they were both talking about Matt Stafford getting traded and hearing about the news. I mean, I think that people are obviously going to link Goff and Wentz because they were 1-2 in the draft, and now they're both on the block, one left already. Chris Long actually guessed that Goff was going to get traded or that they gave up on him in the playoff game because he goes, so Goff is healthy, quote unquote, NFL healthy because everyone's always banged up, but they still chose to have him as the backup for Wofford. So he's like, maybe this is a low key, the Eagles playing Hurts just to see if Wofford does anything kind of thing. Nothing to do with the injury completely, and then he kind of was right because they said they're going to do a competition and then Goff gets dealt. And the crazy thing is that they had to send the 2 first round picks, I think it was a third, and Goff for that. So people are worried oh my God, are the Eagles going to have to trade all that for Wentz and offloading the contract? The thing is, the team, this is a notion that people need to completely get rid of. The team inheriting Wentz is not getting a bad contract. You're actually getting a really good contract if you're getting Wentz because Goff's contract is 4 years, $106.6 million and $54 million guaranteed. Wentz is only 4 years, 98.4 million. Yeah, 98 and then 47 guaranteed. So you're literally paying him, the only guaranteed money you're paying him is pretty much 23.5 for 2 years. That's not bad at all. And if you really think about it, you're literally getting him for half the price of Patrick Mahomes because right now, that's pretty much what he's worth, if anything. And the thing with Wentz though is Daniel Jeremiah has been saying for weeks the NFL perception of Wentz compared to the media and fan perception of Wentz are completely different because they're looking at Carson Wentz in a vacuum and they're looking at everything the best, the worst, when conditions are semi-stable. I mean, what we saw last year, the thing is people are so used to watching red zone and box score checking and checking their fantasy teams, and they're not watching the complete games. Does anyone remember that Patrick Mahomes, not comparing the two players, but no one remembers that Patrick Mahomes threw 2 second half interceptions last year in the Super Bowl? All you remember him is winning the Super Bowl. Well, know why? Because they won. But it's not a QB stat wins. When Carson Wentz is winning, you don't hear anything. When he's losing, it's end of the world. He's the problem. But then you look at the team. I mean, the amount of injuries we have, it's crazy. And people are like, oh, that's just bad luck. It's not bad luck. I talk to people at NovaCare, and they talk about after the Super Bowl, they got rid of 2 of the longest tenured doctors. Why? Because Howie told Lori that there's all this sports medicine stuff and that they need to move away from what Chip Kelly was doing. Look at what's happened. Every year we have, 12 starters in and out of the lineup. Injuries all over the place. We can't figure it out. The conditioning is weird. And there's a reason why guys like Malcolm Jenkins and all these other veterans, they aren't staying here. Malcolm Jenkins didn't get any more money in New Orleans. And the reason, and you keep hearing from people, take it with a grain of salt because it was Scandrick, but he's Howie Roseman's the problem. And obviously you don't want to believe that coming from a guy that you don't really respect his opinion, but it's coming from so many different people. I mean, I know people in the front office and people are it's weird. Like, the guy has so much control since Chip Kelly left. Like, he controls the game day roster. He overrules the scouts on draft day, and I feel like there's a lot of tension. I mean, you see guys like, people love Dave Phipp. He went to Detroit. People love Deuce. He went to Detroit. And the whole trade with Goff and Stafford, like you said, like, LA has nothing to lose. They have their nice fancy stadium. They were mediocre, they're like 3-13 for years. And now they finally have a really good team. Defensive player of the year multiple times with Aaron Donald. And they're like, okay, like, if Stafford can be what we think he is, then maybe we'll win a Super Bowl. But the different perception with Goff and Wentz is Goff had an all-star team around him every single year. And he wasn't anything special. I mean, dude, he had Todd Gurley. He had a top 3 defense every year. He had Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. They got Van Jefferson early when they had bigger needs. Cam Akers was phenomenal. So I feel like people comparing the two, it's mostly just because Goff and Wentz were just 1 and 2, but their play is not alike at all. I mean, Goff has such a low ceiling.
Yeah, and you talk about the whole Howie Roseman and all that, and it's worrisome. To me, it's like the scene in Christmas National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation when Cousin Eddie goes and he abducts the guy after he gives him the Fruit of the Month Club or bonus. It's kind of like that. If Howie Roseman keeps messing stuff up, someone's gonna go in their minivan or whatever and abduct Howie Roseman, like the same thing. But I don't know. And the whole thing with he's a cap genius and all this kind of stuff. You're pushing money down the road. That's like me going to stores and with my credit card just using it, and then when the bill comes due, it's like, oh shit, okay, I got to figure out how I'm going to pay this now. So I got to do this and this, and then move this around and do this and this. It's kind of like what he's doing, and I just feel that the whole Wentz thing, it sucks. I know, I got Wentz jerseys. I root for the guy. He's the quarterback of my favorite team. Exactly. There's a jersey right behind Chris. He's pointing to it, and I just don't. My feeling is, this is not the place he's going to succeed or resurrect, if you want to say, his career. I just think that it's at that point where separation may be the best thing, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have talked about this ever since Hurts got picked. I believe I was at the Seattle game. For better or worse, I feel like when they saw Josh McCown with a torn ass go struggle to go up and down the field in a home playoff game that they easily could have won, and it was another game when Carson Wentz wasn't healthy, was not his fault. People still blame him for Jadeveon Clowney spearing him in the back of the head, but I feel like after they saw that happen, they're like, what are we gonna do? And instead of leaning into the problem, they kind of created another one. They didn't do what the Bills did. And the entire time that he's been here, I mean, people are like, oh, well, they did this, this, and this. It's like, yeah, but none of it worked. Want to know why? Because you were stupid about it. Like, they weren't the Browns. They didn't spend a 4th and a 7th getting Jarvis Landry when John Dorsey was there. Did that help Baker Mayfield? Absolutely. Did they get him Nick Chubb? Absolutely. Did they get him Kareem Hunt? Absolutely. What did they do for Kyler Murray? They got him DeAndre Hopkins. They got him Kenyon Drake. What did they do for for Josh Allen? They got him Stephon Diggs, got him Beasley, they got him Zach Moss, and what did they do? They got him they got him the coach of the year. Dable just won an award tonight for coaching. It's like Dable. It's like, what are you doing? Like, okay, like we're helping Carson out. What'd you do? Frank Reich left. Okay, we'll give him Press Taylor. It's like, okay, what else did you do? Well, we re-signed Alshon Jeffrey to a massive contract. He hasn't been healthy. He got suspended for PEDs. Like, I like Alshon Jeffrey, but he's been unreliable his entire career. We're gonna bring Deshaun Jackson back. He played like 4 games in 2 years. And like Deshaun Jackson, like I love the nostalgia, always respect him, but
Yeah.
you weren't paying for Deshaun Jackson. You're playing for the nostalgia. And like, dude, we went into the year like Miles Sanders got hurt before the season. And then it was like, okay, we have Boston Scott and Corey Clement. Like that, it almost felt like we weren't trying to win. Like from the way we built the roster, and then on top of it, the way we were coached. I mean, you just watch games where the personnel was awful. Jason Peters couldn't block. You had Kelsey was the only healthy lineman. He was getting hit. They weren't rolling him out. Then they had him drop back like 50 times a game. I mean, it was just like bizarre to watch the whole thing go down. Like, did Wentz suck on his own? Absolutely. But it was like one of those things where like we're a team of trying to overcorrect past mistakes. Like someone like our team has a concussion and we try to put a band-aid on a concussion. We do that all over the place. We do that with coaching. We do that with players. It's like we drafted Sidney Jones. He was an injured player, but we were hoping he was going to be something. He didn't. What did that do? It made you scared to draft DK Metcalf. You didn't draft DK Metcalf. All right, we'll get J-Jaw. He didn't turn out. Okay, we need speed because J-Jaw's slow. We'll get Jalen Reagor instead of Justin Jefferson because I think Justin Jefferson is a slow slot receiver. We do that all across the. That's what I mean. It's like
do that with everything.
Carson Wentz, he's not as fast as he used to be. And I think instead of getting like Jeremy Chin or a lineman or something that can help the team, let's get Jalen Hurts. I like Jalen Hurts, but the whole fact that getting him, it was bizarre because it was an overcorrection because you spent a 5th round pick the year before on Clayton Thorson, who sucked in college. Clayton Thorson was awful. It was a waste of a 5th round pick. Want to know what you should have done? You should have drafted the quarterback for the 1st round pick that year, Gardner Minshew, who also went in the 5th round pick. Want to know who he played with? Washington State. The left tackle, Andre Dillard, who you spent a 1st round pick on, who we didn't even scout. Yeah. Like, if the funny thing is, the entire situation could be completely avoided. If Gardner Minshew was the Eagles' backup the entire time, we wouldn't be talking about Jalen Hurts. Carson Wentz is probably still here, because then you wouldn't have a 2nd round pick value that Howie has to prove right. Like Howie knows that he's tied to Jalen Hurts. He was tied to Carson Wentz, and then all the media and all the fans started the snowball effect. Carson Wentz hasn't talked. But everyone's like, okay, silence is louder than words. This guy doesn't want to play for us. This guy this guy that. It's like, listen, they knew they were moving on at the end of the year. Do you think 3 grown men in Ertz, Kelsey, and Wentz are going to sit in the rain from 10:30 till 1 a.m. after the last game of the season in an empty stadium? They knew they were done. And then look at it. But Schefter, all the news Schefter's saying is it's not coming from Carson Wentz. Mortensen, it's not coming from Carson Wentz. And now the language is shopping. It's completely different than Deshaun Watson and Stafford, who made it apparent from their agents and from their parties that they wanted out. Watson's been tweeting about it since day one that he wanted out. No one has ever said that Carson Wentz wants out. But then Howie knows how to play the media, and he's going to make it look like he's the villain, like Wentz is the villain, and it makes it easier for the fans to just let it happen, because then it's like, okay, this guy didn't want to play for us, because now it's name calling. Wentz is this, Wentz is that. Like, I don't care. Like, he's not his team. He doesn't belong here.
Yeah, and Tom, like you, as an outsider, as a fan, I'm not a fan of another team. What's your take on all this, the Wentz stuff and everything like that?
I mean, if I'm Carson Wentz, I honestly would want out the way he's been treated since he's been there. I mean, he had the whole thing with Foles, now the whole thing with Wentz. I mean, they aren't really fully committing to the guy. And like Chris was saying, they haven't really built a team around him to help him succeed. They haven't got him the weapons the way the Bills did, the way the Cardinals did. Yeah, so I mean, I think it's mutually best for both of them if they just move on at this point.
He's the only Pro Bowler Howie has drafted, and you're getting rid of him, and people are begging. Like, Howie's made it so people want to get rid of Wentz, and he's the only Pro Bowler he's drafted. He hasn't drafted any Pro Bowlers except for Wentz, and that's the funniest thing, that people are like, oh, get him out of here, I don't want him. Like, and then people are like, Howie can't draft. I want all the draft picks that Howie can get for Wentz. And it's like, I thought he couldn't draft. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, it's interesting, and the rumors are all over the place. There's different scenarios. I guess as Ron here, Natalie Eganoff is pumping her chest out, thinking that she has all these, speculation and all this stuff. But I talked to you, Chris. It's going to happen most likely after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't think NFL or Roger Goodell wants it to be on Super Bowl Sunday. Does not want
No.
to take anything away from the game itself. So, we'll see it. If it happens before, the Wednesday show that we do for All About the Birds, it's definitely something that we'll be talking, probably the whole show talking about that. But, for the way it is, it's like I said, it's the unfortunate thing. But the Eagles get rid of them and get some draft compensation. Hopefully, they're able to get some players that be productive and to, make the team a winner again. That's as fans, that's all we ask. It's all we care about. It doesn't matter who's on the team. Give us W's, give us wins, give us success. That's basically what it boils down to. And if you're just rooting for a player and that's it, so be it. But for me, I want the team to win. I don't care who's playing on the team. I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care if Jeffrey Lurie comes down and plays quarterback. If they win the game, they win the game. That's what I kind of care about. But some parting words here. I want to thank Chris for coming on. Absolutely love having you on here, talking draft, talking everything. You can follow Chris on Twitter at Mallee_Chris_24. He's got plenty of interviews up on YouTube on Fourth and John's page.
Yep.
Is that correct? Okay. You can, check those out. They're great. Interacting with the prospects and getting to know them a little bit. So that's some great stuff there. You can follow Tommy at TBarnett91. You can follow myself at JohnnyU9322. We want to thank everyone tuning in. We want to thank everyone commenting. We are promoted by the Athletes Hub and Heat Ratio Sports. You can follow them at Athletes Hub and at Heat Ratio Sports. You can get all the updated news at AATBirds.com. Some new designs. The Draft Talk. We have Draft Talk merchandise now on the line. AATBirds.com/shop. You can find it all there. And I said, it's a busy off season. The draft show's great. All these rumors and everything. It makes everything pretty hectic, but fun at the same time. I want to thank you guys for coming on, joining me. Hope to do it again soon. And we're just going to end it with a little bit of what's coming up this week. And, with that, I end everything with Go Birds.